They made it seem like a favor, but Archangel Michael showed you the trap they'd been setting for weeks. The moment was disguised as generosity, but it wasn't. In the days surrounding the last full moon, the air shifted, not in chaos, but in a quiet, subtle disturbance. It did not thunder. It whispered. The very atmosphere turned heavy with unspoken intentions, and what looked like favor was not favor at all. It was something else entirely. It had polish. It had presentation. But it had no purity. The eyes you trusted sparkled with false light, and the hands that offered gifts were not led by love, but by a hidden motive, long premeditated. The trap didn't arrive with noise. It came wrapped in kindness, cloaked in opportunity, dressed in timing that felt too convenient. And yet, you received it. You accepted it, cautiously. You questioned it, silently. And for days, weeks, maybe even longer, you sat with a tug in your spirit that you couldn't explain. You smiled. You nodded. But you didn't rest. Because deep in your spirit, something felt uneven, misaligned. Archangel Michael was dispatched not when the trap was set, but when your spirit first discerned the tremor. He stood watch, not over your enemies, but over your awareness. He was assigned to illuminate, not stop, but reveal. Because heaven doesn't always prevent the snare. Sometimes it permits the snare, so that the seer in you can awaken, so that the warrior in you can sharpen, so that the watchman in you can rise. This message is not for the loud, the distracted, or the hurried. It's not for the easily impressed or the spiritually dull. No, this word is for the spiritually sensitive, the obedient ones, the quiet discerners, the ones who didn't speak, even though they saw. This is for the ones who felt the unease while everyone else was celebrating. You were not being negative, you were being activated. Heaven permitted the delay not to hurt you, but to expose them. Every fake alliance, every smiling adversary, every offer that came with strings. And while you walked gently, they assumed you were unaware. But the silence they mistook for ignorance was actually alignment. You were not asleep. You were watching in the spirit. Now comes the revelation. Now comes the unmasking. What they meant to use to tie you, God will use to train you. What they meant to offer as bait, heaven will expose as a blueprint. For every whisper behind your back, angels were taking notes. For every fake smile, heaven recorded intentions. The trap is not new, it's just now visible. This is the hour you find out what was presented as help was a test. What was disguised as opportunity was opposition in costume. The ones who came with flattery did not come in light. They came as distraction, as delay, as disruption. But they failed to realize you carry discernment. You carry destiny. You carry divine surveillance. The spiritual tug you felt was not paranoia. It was prophetic insight. And now, the veil lifts. The trap they built is unraveling in their own hands. And you will not fall into it. You will rise because of it. Heaven has declared it. Type I am chosen in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 666 is now surrounding you. Archangel Michael steps forward, sword drawn, declaring urgency. Hear me now. This is not the hour to delay. Archangel Michael, commander of the heavenly hosts, steps forward with authority burning like fire in his eyes, the sword of divine justice gleaming with holy light in his hand. He does not whisper. He does not request. He declares, urgently, boldly, without apology. Within the next 2 hours, you'll notice what they left behind. The words thunder through the spirit realm like a prophetic alarm. Heed this now. Something you once dismissed as minor will now strike your spirit like lightning. The residue of their manipulation, the mark of their setup, the fingerprints of their scheme, is already being uncovered. What they tried to bury is rising to the surface, not because of man's wisdom, but because heaven is speaking now. This is not an accident. This is not coincidence. This is divine exposure, and you are standing in the center of it. They called it help. They called it a gift. They called it support. But the Spirit says otherwise. The Spirit says, this was not a door opened by heaven, but a doorway disguised by hell. And you, beloved, were never meant to walk through it in ignorance. You were meant to discern it with your spirit, meant to pause, meant to question, meant to wait for instruction from on high. Heaven has never left you blind. You were marked to uncover what others simply endured. This is a call to the watchmen, to the intercessors, to the ones who see in dreams and feel in silence. This is for the ones who knew something was wrong the moment it arrived, but didn't know why. Michael says, you were the target, but also the answer. You were the mark, but also the messenger. They didn't just pick you at random. They plotted. They waited. They timed their move. They studied your life like a script, rehearsed their performance, and hoped you'd be too tired, too hopeful, or too desperate to notice. But the flame inside you didn't flicker out. It grew. What they thought was your weakness was actually your wisdom. What they thought was vulnerability was vigilance. Heaven did not allow this moment to destroy you. It allowed this moment to define you. And now, the time of revealing has begun. Michael speaks again, louder, bolder, to shake your soul from weariness. You are not just watching deception unfold. You are the one heaven chose to confront it. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with righteous silence and surgical clarity. You are not here to react emotionally. You are here to move spiritually. You are not a pawn in their plan. You are the pivot that will reverse it. This message is not for everyone. This word will not echo in the ears of the casual or the carnal. This is for the ones who live with sensitivity to the Spirit, who understand the language of spiritual unease, who discern warfare in what looks like kindness. You, the chosen. You, the set apart. You, the one who sat in the room smiling, while your spirit wept. You, who walked home unsettled after receiving what looked like a blessing. You didn't overthink it. You were under spiritual surveillance. What they planted in your life was never meant to grow into goodness. It was bait. It was calculation. It was wrapped in deception and presented as destiny. But now the Spirit says, do not take another step until the fog lifts. Do not sign. Do not speak. Do not surrender. You're in a holy pause, a sacred stillness, because heaven is flipping the table. That generosity you received, it had layers. That opportunity, and strings. That favor, it came with a fingerprint from the wrong realm. But heaven has dispatched Archangel Michael to intercept the outcome. You are not walking into the trap. You're being positioned to expose it. This is not paranoia. This is prophetic perception. This is not fear. This is divine foresight. This is not weakness. This is warrior wisdom. Right now, as you listen, the atmosphere around you is shifting. The angelic guard around your life is not casual. They are on assignment. They are watching your every hesitation with holy attention. They are navigating you through a landmine of spiritual plots, false alignments, and smiling saboteurs. What happens next is critical. What you say matters. What you don't say matters more. Where you go matters. Where you don't go matters more. Heaven is instructing. Michael is revealing. You are awakening. Hold fast. In the next 2 hours, spiritual scales will begin tipping. Something is about to be shown. And when it is, you'll know you were never crazy. You were called. You were never confused. You were covered. You were never weak. You were witnessed by heaven. Type "I am anointed" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1122 is now activated. Why did their favor come with a strange feeling afterward? It started subtly. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but you felt it. That unsettled feeling after their offer. A slight pressure behind their smile. The conversation that ended with a lingering silence, one that echoed in your spirit longer than the words themselves. Heaven is confirming what your gut already whispered. This was not alignment. This was entanglement. They presented a favor, yes, but it didn't feel pure. It came wrapped in a strange peace that quickly evaporated. You smiled, because you were trained to be gracious. You nodded, because you were taught to be polite. But the moment passed, and something inside you tightened. You went home that night, and instead of feeling lifted, you felt watched. You replayed their words. You examined your reaction. You sensed something deeper than deception. You sensed design. This was not random. It was orchestrated. You've noticed it since. Delays that shouldn't exist. Sudden disruption. Texts that feel oddly timed. Apologies that lack sincerity. Conversations that start normal but quickly twist. People asking questions they shouldn't know to ask. You began noticing their eyes, how their gaze lingered too long or dodged too quickly, how they used your name too often in conversation, as if overfamiliarity would dull your caution. But it didn't. Because God is raising up a new sensitivity in you, one that no longer confuses charisma for character, no longer accepts closeness without clarity, no longer receives words without weighing the spirit behind them. Heaven is not just showing you actions. Heaven is showing you assignments. Because this wasn't just deception, it was a mission, a carefully crafted play to trigger your trust, to manipulate your motion, and to ensnare your elevation. But the enemy underestimated your discernment. What they thought would gain access only caused you to withdraw and observe. That's why you've been uneasy. It's not your emotions acting out. It's your spirit crying out. The emotional disruption you've experienced lately, mood shifts, sudden anxiety, insomnia, distraction during prayer, these are not psychological. They are spiritual alarms. You've been picking up the static of the snare, the tension of the trap, the weight of their deception before the evidence arrived. Because you are spiritually tuned. Michael says, the unease is your early warning. You felt it before you could name it. That's why you couldn't explain it. That's why others dismissed it. That's why you questioned your own discernment. But now the veil is lifting. Your mask is slipping. And what was once hidden behind compliments and timing and flattery is now being revealed by truth, conviction, and divine fire. They smiled, but the smile didn't reach their eyes. They helped, but it came with invisible strings. They praised you, but they were keeping score. They watched your response, not to bless you, but to measure your guard. They needed to know, how alert is she? How cautious is he? Will they question this, or will they take the bait? You were counting your steps, tracking your schedule, mimicking your language, mirroring your tone. But what they didn't know What they could never know is that angels were surrounding you the whole time. Archangel Michael was present at the table where they planned, present in the room when they rehearsed, present in your heart when you silently sensed the shift. This confusion you felt is not a flaw in your thinking. It's the signal of a spiritual battle being fought behind the veil. And the more they try to re-engage you, the more they'll notice you've changed. You're quieter now, but not because you're unsure, because you're secure. You're not stuck in fear. You're firm in faith. Heaven says, let the confusion they caused become the clarity that now crowns you. If this message resonates with you and you feel moved to support, consider giving a super thanks with contributions of up to $10. Your kindness helps us bring more powerful content your way. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating through the Support Here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. Subscribe now for more spiritually discerning messages, prophetic insights, and divine instruction that strengthens your walk daily. Type I am chosen in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1414 is now surrounding you. This was never about the favor. It was a setup. The trap wasn't material. It was mystical. The attack wasn't just against your life. It was against your discernment, your identity, your calling. What looked like a gift was, in truth, a gate. Not a gate to your blessing, but a gate to distraction, delusion, and detour. Heaven permitted this, not to crush you, but to train your ears for battle, your eyes for movement, your spirit for exposure. The Spirit of the Lord says, you were never meant to react. You were meant to remember. Remember the last time someone came with compliments that felt forced. Remember the way you ignored your own hesitation, just to stay liked. Remember the price of rushing into something you didn't pray through. But not this time. Not now. This is a different version of you. This is the refined you, the sharpened you, the silent but lethal you. You've walked through enough shadows to know the temperature of the light. And now, what they offered as favor, you recognize as a false flame. You passed this test with stillness, not striving. You passed it with pause, not panic. You passed it with silence, not submission. This was never about the thing itself. It was about whether you would fall into emotional obligation or rise into spiritual obedience. Heaven watched as you didn't post about it. You didn't retaliate. You didn't confront them in the flesh. You stayed in the spirit. You stayed discerning. You stayed silent, but sovereign. And that was the victory. You are not paranoid. You are spiritually alert. You are not dramatic. You are divinely instructed. You are not fearful. You are fully armored. Michael says, your restraint is your weapon. While they tried to rush you, you waited. While they tried to manipulate you, you discerned. While they set the trap, you walked past it, slow, steady, unwavering. The enemy targeted your calling. That's why it came through the most trusted route. The familiar voice, the kind gesture, the timely offer. Because what couldn't enter through fear tried to enter through familiarity. What couldn't stop your strength tried to confuse your kindness. But your spirit stayed sharp. Your prayers stayed pure. And because of that, the trap failed. Let this frame your understanding. You weren't being tested by man. You were being tested by heaven. This moment was never about the person. It was about the pattern. God is highlighting cycles, revealing triggers, resetting your response. And now that you've passed the test in silence, He is opening your eyes to what lies beneath the surface. You will not be fooled again. You will not be bound again. You will not step into snares disguised as next steps. You are spiritually alert. You are divinely covered. You are trained for the unseen. This was not a breakdown. It was a breakthrough in disguise. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 777 is now activated over your discernment. Within the next 72 hours, something will be revealed. The air is thick now with tension in the unseen realm. A stirring has begun in the spiritual atmosphere. Archangel Michael declares, "Watch closely. The next 72 hours will carry proof. Not theory, not suspicion, but confirmation. You are not imagining the shift. You are standing in the eye of it. What was hidden in shadows is being dragged into light, not by your hand, but by divine order. Their story is already shifting. They are adjusting the narrative behind your back. Their words are being rehearsed. They are rewriting timelines and conversations in their head to prepare for questions they know will come. But here's what they don't understand. Heaven has already written the truth into the timeline. Before they plotted, angels were positioned. Before they whispered, the Spirit recorded. What they are preparing, God is preempting. And He's letting you see it before they finish building the lie. Do not be deceived by sudden kindness. Do not be lured by false remorse. The enemy is panicking now because his timing failed. What was meant to snare you is being reversed before your eyes. But the reversal must be handled with holy caution. Archangel Michael commands, "Do not move until heaven speaks. Do not respond yet." Silence is still your strongest strategy. They're watching, spiritually watching. Every hesitation you make, they study it. Every pause, they measure it. But you are not moving in confusion anymore. You are moving in clarity. Heaven expects your stillness, not your reaction. The enemy is not afraid of noise. He's afraid of obedience. And in this hour, your quiet obedience is breaking every plan formed against you. You'll notice they'll try again soon. Another offer. Another call. Another meeting that seems random. It will sound innocent. It may even appeal to your compassion, your loyalty, your desire to reconcile. But hear the word of the Lord. Do not lean into what once deceived you. The door is not yours to re-enter. The trap is not yours to untangle. Pressure is rising in their camp. Conversations about you are getting louder. Their alliances are shifting. What was once silent is now packed. But that's not your concern. The battle is no longer at your feet. It's in the realm of angels now. You were faithful with your stillness. Now let heaven fight with fire. Michael's army is not observing. They are executing divine assignments as we speak. You are being tested one more time, but not to break you, to crown you. This moment is not about restraint alone. It's about recognition. Can you now recognize what used to fool you? Can you now discern what once confused you? Heaven has elevated your vision. You're no longer reacting from wounds. You're responding from wisdom. You are a threshold, and thresholds require discipline. Archangel Michael warns, if you move too soon, you'll step into confusion. If you wait on me, you will walk into clarity. Let that settle. You are not waiting for man. You are waiting for divine release. And when it comes, it will come not with pressure, but with peace. To watch it. Watch with spiritual eyes. Not with suspicion, but with divine discernment. What they try to spin will unravel in real time. You will see the cracks in their words. the inconsistencies in their stories, the shifts in their posture, and you will not flinch. Because heaven prepared you for this hour, you are not at risk. You are being revealed. You are not in danger. You are in divine position. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1555 is now unlocked over your decisions. Be still. This battle is not yours. It belongs to heaven. This moment is sacred. You are not just being preserved. You are being positioned. And in the quiet, heaven's strategy is unfolding. Archangel Michael speaks not with force, but with sacred clarity. Be still. This battle is not yours. It belongs to the armies of the Lord. There is a protection around you right now that is impenetrable, but it requires your agreement with heaven's pace. The enemy's strategy always involves distraction through provocation. He wants you to engage emotionally so you miss what's being built spiritually. But heaven says, stay still. Stay hidden. Stay watching. There are traps still being monitored. Conversations still being documented by angels. Moves still being allowed, so the full exposure can be complete. You've been tempted to respond, haven't you? To explain yourself. To clarify the truth. To defend your name. But the Spirit of God says, let them speak. You stay silent. Let them act. You stay still. This is not the time to clarify. It is the time to consecrate. Heaven is watching every move, not just theirs but yours. Every word from your mouth now is either an agreement with breakthrough or a delay of blessing. And because of that, the Spirit is whispering, guard your gates. Guard what you say. Guard where you go. Guard who you engage with. Shut every access that feels unclean or unsettling. This isn't about being suspicious. It's about being sanctified. Repeat it now. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Say it again. Louder. Bolder. With every declaration, the realm of the Spirit aligns with truth. Because your words are not just affirmations, they are weapons of war. And your silence is not weakness. It is warfare in disguise. Archangel Michael says, silence is a sword in the Spirit. It cuts through confusion. It slices away false connections and breaks the cadence of manipulation. When you go silent, heaven goes loud. When you retreat in prayer, the angelic host advances in power. Your job is not to strike back. Your role is not to uncover the scheme. Your mission is to remain hidden in the presence of God, so heaven can complete the reversal. They must expose themselves. They must hang by their own words. They must stumble into the web they spun. You not give them what they want. They crave reaction. They feed off your emotion. They test your loyalty and call it concern. But you've risen above that. You now sit in a higher place, spiritually seated in heavenly realms, where carnal games cannot reach you. This battle belongs to the Lord. This warfare belongs to the angels. This assignment belongs to Michael. You need only to obey, to pray, and to preserve your peace. There is divine protection hovering around your home right now, around your phone, around your name. Even your reputation is being protected in ways you can't see. While they try to twist it, heaven is fortifying it. You are not being left unguarded. You are being held in a divine perimeter of stillness and power. Stay hidden. Stay holy. Stay hopeful. The trap they planned for you is about to catch them instead. And when it happens, you won't gloat, you'll glorify. Because this wasn't your victory. It was God's. and you'll know it by the purity of your posture. Your stillness is not silence, it's surrender. And surrender is your strongest shield. Type "I am shielded" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 2299 is surrounding you now with divine defense. You are no longer who they think you are. They still think you're the version of you that once stayed quiet out of fear. They still speak to you like you're bound by the same insecurities, the same need for approval, the same desire to belong. But something has changed. And it didn't change overnight, it changed in fire, in silence, in testing, in isolation. You are not the same, and that is what's confusing them now. What once worked on you no longer moves you. What once pulled your emotions now meets the force of your discernment. What once lured you in now meets your spiritual firewall. You've been growing in silence. Heaven has been tutoring you in shadows. Every delay they thought was weakness was actually training in disguise. Every moment they assumed you were overthinking was actually the Spirit of God rewiring your instincts. They assumed you were frozen, but you were forging. You were not confused, you were becoming clear. Archangel Michael says, they baited you with favor, but what they really did was expose the gap between their intention and their spirit. What was meant to trap you revealed your authority. This is the moment the power shifts, not through confrontation but through transformation. Not because they apologized, but because you evolved. You're not fragile. You're focused. You're not doubting. You're discerning. Your favor with the test, and you passed it by choosing peace over pressure. And while they whispered about you behind closed doors, heaven was writing your name on the walls of destiny. Let it be known, this storm did not break you. It revealed your wings. You've been flying higher in silence than they have in all their noise. Every time you chose not to engage, you were gaining ground in the spirit. Every time you remained silent while being tested, you were amassing spiritual firepower. They expected you to respond. You didn't. They expected you to prove yourself. You didn't. And now they are puzzled, because the weapon they thought would work has no power in your current dimension. You're being elevated, not through announcements, but through endurance. Heaven is marking you with increase while your enemies are still monitoring your last move. You are not who they remember, and that is what's threatening to them. Because control only works when it's predictable, and you, child of God, have become spiritually unpredictable. Michael says, let them wonder. Let them wrestle. Let them chase shadows, because you've stepped into the light. You have no need to explain who you've become. The fruit will speak. The shift will show. The transformation will testify. They build strategies around the old you, but the old you is gone. That version of you who would compromise to keep the peace. That version of you who would ignore your spirit just to avoid confrontation. That version of you who mistook obligation for covenant. You were forged in fire, lifted by wings, preserved in silence. What they thought would reduce you has revealed the authority inside you. You didn't beg for freedom. You birthed it through prayer, fasting, waiting, and listening. And now, the empowerment is irreversible. Type "I am empowered" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 444 is now flowing into your season of transformation. The trap was allowed so your next level could be released. Listen with your spirit. This is the divine turning point. Heaven says, the trap they set was never meant to destroy you. It was a trigger for your elevation. Everything they orchestrated in darkness, every lie, every manipulative gesture, every favor laced with bondage, has now become the material for your breakthrough. The very scheme designed to collapse you is now crumbling in their own hands. But you're being launched into levels that can only be accessed through endurance. This isn't just exposure, it's activation. The pain you walked through was the key to unlock the door they tried to seal. And heaven is declaring with authority, you are stepping into territory only the tested can hold. Your discernment wasn't just about spotting the enemy. It was about proving your maturity. God could have stopped the trap before it formed. But he did. Why? Because your next level demanded that you see, sense, and survive the setup without surrendering your position. Their favor was a filter. It didn't bring blessings. It revealed impurities. It exposed who was clean and who was cloaked in charisma but covered in control. And now that the veil has lifted, you no longer see through the lens of emotion. You see through divine clarity. This moment isn't about who betrayed you. It's about who heaven has released you from. Michael speaks now, thunder in his voice. They tried to block your name from rooms they couldn't enter themselves. But heaven wrote your name on doors they never had the authority to shut. The trap did not delay you. It aligned you. It placed you right at the intersection of God's will and your next assignment. And now, what they meant as sabotage has become your stage. Not for ego, not for revenge, but for revelation. Because God is revealing who you truly are, not just to them, but to yourself. You were never weak. You were never expendable. You were never just a placeholder in their story. You are the answer to a problem they didn't see coming. This next season will come with acceleration, but not without recognition. You must know why you're moving forward. You must know what you've outgrown. Because elevation without wisdom only leads to repetition. But you've earned wisdom. You've earned access. You've earned fire-tested clarity. God says, this pain promoted your prophecy. Your name is being whispered in rooms of opportunity because you remained obedient in silence. The doors opening now are not man-made. They are spirit-led. And no sabotage, no lie, no delay can block what heaven has initiated. You are no longer circling the same mountain. You're stepping onto new land. You're walking into fresh favor. You're stepping into divine fulfillment. Every word spoken against you is being reversed. Every plot is being pulled apart. And every connection that came with strings is being cut at the root. The ones who once underestimated you will now watch you rise with grace, covered in glory, surrounded by the very favor they tried to sabotage. Because what was meant to delay you only increased your visibility before heaven. And now, you will see the manifestation. If this message touched your spirit and you want to sow into more prophetic insight like this, consider a super thanks of $20. Your support directly fuels more bold, spirit-led messages like this one. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating through the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. Subscribe now to receive ongoing prophetic messages, divine confirmations, and spirit-led direction as your walk deepens. Type I am unlocked in the comments if you receive this revelation. Blessing code 1001 is breaking open divine doors right now. Speak now. I am aligned with heaven's will. There comes a moment, one marked not by noise but by knowing, when destiny doesn't wait for permission, it waits for alignment. That moment is now. Speak it with your spirit. Declare it with your soul. Let heaven and hell hear it clearly. I'm aligned with heaven's will. This is not a soft whisper. It is a divine announcement. You are not waiting for clarity anymore. You are standing in it. You are no longer standing on the sidelines of your own calling. You are not pacing in hesitation, second-guessing what you already know. Heaven is not waiting for a perfect circumstance. Heaven is waiting for your yes. A full yes. A bold yes. A burning yes that breaks every soul tied to confusion, to delay, to the approval of those who were never meant to journey with you. Alignment isn't passive. It's not something you fall into. It's something you step into. It requires action, movement, agreement. And the enemy knows this. That's why he fought so hard to keep you distracted. That's why he sent emotional traps dressed as connections. That's why the favor came looking like a blessing, but felt like bait. Because if he could delay your agreement with God's timeline, he could detour your arrival to purpose. But he failed. Because you are here. And heaven is roaring with celebration. The throne room is alert with movement. The scrolls of your calling are unrolling. And the angels who were waiting for your response are now preparing to move. Your faith just activated divine strategy. Your yes just wrote your next season. Speak it again. I canceled the enemy script with my obedience. That script that said you would stay small. That narrative that framed your delay as disqualification. That lie that told you favor must be earned through compromise. It's all being shredded in the spirit now. Because your obedience is louder than the manipulation they sent to your door. You are not bound by their plan. You are elevated by God's promise. This is not about them anymore. It never was. This is about you stepping into what was ordained before they ever tried to infiltrate it. The vision God gave you. It hasn't expired. It hasn't changed. It hasn't dimmed. What was delayed is now being reignited. The fire is returning. The focus is sharpening. And your next steps are no longer unclear. They are unlocked. So take the step. The one you've been shown. The one that's been whispering in your spirit at 3 a.m. The one you pushed aside out of fear that it was too big or too soon. Hear this now. If God gave it, then it's already blessed. If God revealed it, then it's already protected. Your role is to move. Not later. Not next season. Now, here's an oil on your life that flows only in forward motion. And no, you won't have all the answers before you obey. That's not how destiny works. God doesn't send blueprints. He sends burdens, visions, confirmations. And he expects trust. Trust, not comfort. Trust, not clarity. Trust that your steps are ordered, even when the path is invisible. This is the part where emotional ties must break. This is the part where nostalgia can no longer be mistaken for covenant. This is where you stop revisiting old seasons hoping they'll suddenly fit your new mantle. They won't. And they are not supposed to. You've outgrown what once fed you. Because you're being called to feed others now. Walk with strategy. Let your prayers turn into movement. Let your discernment translate into decisions. You've cried enough. You've analyzed enough. You've hesitated long enough. Now, move in power. Type I am aligned in the comments if this resonates with your spirit. Lesson code 3333 has been activated for divine movement. While they laughed, heaven listened. While you cried, angels moved. You didn't know it, but something sacred was being transacted every time you held your tongue. Every moment you prayed through tears. Every time you chose silence over spectacle. While you were being misunderstood, heaven was moving in precision. And now the Spirit of God says, what was traded in the unseen will now manifest in the open. Your private pain has become public promotion. And the cost you paid in secret is now being matched with a glory that cannot be hidden. This wasn't just emotional turmoil. This was a silent exchange, a divine deal, a spiritual trade, orchestrated by God and overseen by Archangel Michael himself. You laid down your confusion, and he released clarity. You surrendered what was breaking your heart, and heaven recorded it as obedience. The night you cried alone and questioned if any of this had purpose, that night was holy. The angels were not distant observers. They were active participants. They were collecting your tears like currency. Each one counted and converted into future glory. And while they mocked you, while they whispered and watched, while they smiled with contempt, heaven was writing your name on scrolls of favor. You've been restless because something was being reborn. Your soul could feel what your mind hadn't yet processed. The shift wasn't coming. It had already begun. The movement wasn't future, it was now. And it started in the stillness. Not when you retaliated, not when you reacted, but when you released. That's what triggered it. The release. When you said, God, I give this back to you. That was the moment the angelic exchange began. That was the moment heaven said, now we can move. Not when you posted, not when you pleaded, but when you let go. And now, heaven is giving you back what was stolen, plus interest. Here's a reversal happening in silence. You won't need to make announcements. You won't need to prove a thing. Those who thought they broke you will now watch you rise without bitterness. This is justice without vengeance. This is elevation without ego. Because heaven is not just concerned with the outcome. Heaven is watching the integrity of your process. The enemy had hoped you'd get bitter, that you'd lash out, that you'd implode under the weight of it all. But you surprised them. You grew in silence. You forgave in silence. You stayed planted in silence. And now, in silence, the reward is arriving. What was meant to weaken you has become your weapon. What was meant to rob you has become your reason. Archangel Michael says, the exchange is complete. Your tears were not wasted, they were traded. The legacy you're about to walk in is not accidental. It's divine recompense. Heaven recorded what you endured, and how you endured it. And now, what was withheld is being released like a flood. Not a trickle, not a sprinkle. A flood of restoration, promotion, and divine fulfillment. This is the hour of quiet restitution. They will know how you got blessed, but heaven will know why. You don't need to defend what's about to happen. You don't need to explain the doors that will open. Your only responsibility now is to stay humble, stay hidden, and stay aligned. Because when heaven moves, no man can block it. And right now, heaven is moving in your favor. Type I receive the exchange in the comments. Blessing code 818 is now delivering quiet restoration and unseen rewards. The trap they built is the pit they now face. The tables are turning, not with thunder, but with a quiet precision that only heaven could orchestrate. There is no need to shout. No need to explain. No need to seek revenge. Because the God who watched you walk through fire without burning, who saw you smile through sabotage, who counted every tear that fell in silence, that God is now delivering spiritual justice. They thought you were vulnerable because you didn't retaliate. They assumed your silence was surrender. They believed they had power because they moved first. But heaven does not rush. Heaven waits for fullness, and now the fullness of time has arrived. Archangel Michael stands at the gate with fire in his eyes, declaring, the pit they dug has now become their prison. The lie they spread has become their exposure. The plot they planned has reversed. This is divine reversal, not reaction. This is spiritual justice, not emotional warfare. God is not delayed. He is deliberate. What men could not see, heaven recorded. And while they celebrated your confusion, heaven was constructing your comeback. You are not stepping into justice. You are being wrapped in it. The trap failed. The snare snapped. The cords they tied are now wrapping around their own ankles. They will trip over what they crafted for you. And it won't happen through your hands. It will happen through divine orchestration. You won't need to confront. You won't need to defend. You won't even need to speak. Because the same silence that preserved you will now prosecute the plans of your enemies. They'll see you rise while they descend. They'll witness favor flow toward you like a river they can't cross. This is not about punishment. This is about restoration of divine order. You were always favored. You were always chosen. But heaven needed to let the false ones speak first, so the truth would be undeniable when it rose. What they dishonored is now being displayed in glory. The very name they tried to soil is now being written in places their hands cannot reach. The rooms they tried to keep you out of are now being opened by keys they never had access to. And they will watch not because God is petty, but because He is just. Justice is not loud. It is exact. It is complete. It is irreversible. God says, I am not just healing your wounds, I am establishing your witness. Your story will not end with pain. It will end in prophetic power. Because when God delivers justice, He doesn't just clear your name, He anoints your future. You are being elevated, not out of pity, out of purpose. Not because they changed their mind, but because heaven never changed its decree. You were always meant to overcome this. The trap was part of the proving. The conflict was part of the crowing. And now the glory of God will rest on you in a way that no voice of opposition can deny. There will be no vengeance in your hands, only victory on your life. And as they face the whirlwind of their own words, you will walk with wind at your back, grace in your steps, and fire in your eyes. You are rising not as a victim of betrayal, but as a vessel of vindication. You didn't force the outcome. You trusted the process. And now the process is releasing you into places you never imagined. If this message has stirred your spirit, and you feel led to support this prophetic work, consider giving a super thanks. Your $5, $10, or $20 offering fuels more anointed content that speaks directly into your journey. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating through the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. Subscribe now for ongoing prophetic updates, divine confirmations, and spirit-led strategies for your elevation and empowerment. Type I stand in justice in the comments. Blessing code 999 is now releasing divine reversal into your atmosphere. Heaven says, you are seen, sealed, and strengthened. Let it be written in the scrolls of heaven. Let it echo in the halls of angels, and let it resound in your heart today. You are seen. You are sealed. You are strengthened. The battle you just survived was not about what was taken. It was about what was being released. And now, as the dust settles and the lies fall apart, heaven shines its light fully upon you, child of God. The trap did not work. It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't sharp enough. Because your spirit was fortified before the plan even began. God saw ahead. He prepared ahead. He wrapped you in wisdom before the deception ever approached. And now, the very act they meant to bind you has unlocked your divine promotion. You are no longer walking as a person trying to recover. You are walking as one who has been resurrected, renewed, recommissioned. There is an oil on you now that cannot be mimicked, a shine on your name that cannot be stolen, a mark on your spirit that screams, "This one belongs to the kingdom." This message was never random. This moment was never accidental. You were guided to this word by the Spirit of God because this was your confirmation of triumph. Not just survival, triumph. You don't look like what you went through. You don't speak like someone who almost fell into the trap. You sound like someone who was called to uncover it. Heaven rejoices not because of what was exposed, but because of how you handled it. Because you didn't let it change your heart. You didn't let it corrupt your spirit. You didn't let it poison your identity. You stayed rooted, and for that, the blessing has been multiplied. Now walk in it. Boldly, freely, without fear, without doubt. Your next chapter has already begun. The pen is in the hand of God, and the ink is victory. The page is glory. The story is yours. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are in divine position. Every previous cycle is broken. Every entanglement is severed. Every counterfeit connection is dismantled. You have passed the test. You have fulfilled the requirement. And now the reward will manifest not in one area but in many. Spirit, toll, relationships, provision, vision, authority. It is all coming into order. Heaven's seal is now on your season. As you close this message, don't just feel inspired, feel commissioned. Because heaven is not just cheering you on. Heaven is backing you up. Go forward now, not as the one who was almost trapped, but as the one who walked through the snare and came out with strategy. Your life is no longer reactive. It is reigning. Your decisions are no longer driven by emotion. They are anchored in revelation. Your path is no longer clouded. It is illuminated by heaven's own fire. You have not been forgotten. You have not been forsaken. You have been forged, favored, and now you are being released. This is your time. This is your confirmation. This is your heavenly unlocking. Go forth, anointed. Go forth, armed. Go forth, awakened. You are not the same. Type "I am released" in the comments if this entire word has confirmed your season. Blessing code 1212 is now flowing over your life for completion and new beginnings.